Welcome back to the 10th Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, and a bit of a special bonus award this year only, unless we do it in the future. And this is an award for our top 5 other media of 2023. So obviously we're singularly movie focused, usually in the Justin and Tyler Movie Awards. However, we thought we would shine a light this year, and this year only, again, unless we do it in the future, on other media in 2023. Because obviously we all consume media every single day. You're literally consuming media right now. So it happens. And we wanted to, take a little time to shine a little light on the other media that we loved in 2023. Now, I was a goober and didn't do any honorable mentions. So we're not going to have any honorable mentions, even though I know that's probably a bunch.
I have a few.
So we're not going to do any honorable mentions. We will get right into our top 5 other media for 2023. My number 5 piece of other media in 2023 is actually the Grey Cup 110 halftime show. So that was a little mini concert by Green Day, which people were kind of very, kind of questioned, Green Day? Why Green Day? They're not even, a Canadian band. Why Green Day?
Because they're Green Day.
Because they're Green Day. And it helped that they had a new album coming out this year, but, it wound up being an excellent, excellent choice. And it was not one of those shows that, the Super Bowl halftime show can, at times, run the risk of overstaying its welcome. With the halftime show for the Grey Cup, it was literally 4 songs and they're out. I think you want to do it that way, because the second that show overstays its welcome, it's going to get real bad real quick in terms of how it's received. So, but they were great. And it wasn't, they didn't get caught up in we have to play the new stuff.
Well, they played a new song.
They played one new song and then three hits.
I wish I could remember what songs they played.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the specifics of it, but at the end of that show, I was like, that was a really good halftime show. That was exactly what that halftime show needed to be. I was thoroughly entertained by it. I like Green Day in general, and as I know you either do currently or have in the past, or in any case, you've been a Green Day person. So it really, really worked for me. So I'm going to put that as my number 5.
Yeah, I was a Green Day person. I actually think Dookie is one of my favorite albums of all time, because it's one of these albums I just put on and listen all the way through and just still love it. And I've been listening to that album since 1994, and I'll still just slap it on, right? And then there's American Idiot. I love that album. And there's songs Nimrod's a good album. Their new stuff just doesn't, I don't love it. I've seen them live. I mean, it's been over 10 years now, but I actually saw them live, and they were really good live. And nice. Longview hits real hard live. But, whatever. Yeah, this is a good pick. I mean, Green Day's still a good live band. That's the thing. They've been doing it for so many years now, and their live performances are a lot more rehearsed than they used to be when they were younger and more raw. Yeah. But they've translated that well to an entertaining live show, and I actually watched that show, and that was entertaining. Okay.
The set list, by the way, was The American Dream Is Killing Me, which was the new one.
Yeah.
They then played Basket Case,
right, of course.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams, and Holiday.
So I couldn't really go by my absolute favorite things necessarily, because I was scared my top 5 would be video games.
Just straight video games?
Because it probably would be. Maybe there'd be one pick that wasn't, but I did put video games in here. Mm-hmm. So for number 5, I'm calling it Taking a Chance with Video Games, and this pick includes Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Alan Wake 2, and to a lesser extent the Dead Space Remake.
Okay.
And here's why this was interesting to me. I wasn't a Harry Potter fan, but but I tried Hogwarts, and I was like, wow, Hogwarts is like a really cool place. And then I watched the movies. So I became a fan of Harry Potter because of that game, essentially. Resident Evil 4, I'm remake. I'm a wimp. I don't play many horror games, especially not survival horror where like ammo is limited.
Right.
I'm just not that kind of guy. And honestly, it's still one of my favorite games of 2023. It's not my favorite, but I really loved it. Alan Wake 2. I liked Alan Wake 1. I played it for a little while. I rented it from Blockbuster many years ago. But again, it's a spooky game. A game I wouldn't normally play because they're too spooky. And I did really like it for the amount I played it, but then it got too spooky.
Too spooky for me.
It started whittling me down, and I'm like, I know this game's really great, but I did play it for quite a few hours, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I liked the story. And then Dead Space, I didn't love as much, but I played that. So the reason I picked it is like, these are all games I wouldn't have otherwise have played.
Right.
But I decided to take a chance this year, in a year that I was spending more money than I probably should have, on just to do things. And it was really rewarding because I found that I really loved Resident Evil especially. Like, that was a big one for me where I was like, wow, I can't believe I actually really love this. And even though I was spooked sometimes. It's not the scariest game because, it's more action, but...
Right.
Like, because I couldn't handle Resident Evil 2 remake. And I know this game's a classic that everyone loves, so I took a chance this year on some games, and it mostly paid off.
My number 4 piece of other media from 2023 is kind of along the same vein as number 5, but it's presented in a different format. And it's the Super Bowl 57 live visual album. So basically what this is it's a collection of all the musical performances that take place during the Super Bowl. So we're talking about the national anthem, America the Beautiful, the Black national anthem, the Lift Every Voice and Sing, and the halftime show, which last year was Rihanna. So it was just a visual album, basically, of those 4 musical performances. And, I mean, like, the NFL is almost unrivaled in its production value, especially for live events. Like, I think if you saw some of, like, the Taylor Swift Eras tour, like, that might be the only thing that, like, production-wise could rival, like, what the NFL does for the friggin' Super Bowl, like, the single biggest televised event of the year, basically. And the visual album is something that they've done for the last few years, and just putting all of those performances kind of together in one visual album, literally. It's just it's a cool way to put it all together and present it, all from like this kind of one sort of happening, right? So the visual album for Super Bowl 57 is my number 4.
The NFL would love how you managed to work in Taylor Swift into a conversation.
It's true.
They're paying you, aren't they?
Shh.
I have nothing to add to this. That was it.
Rihanna's halftime show I thought was really good.
I'm sure it was. Alright, so for my number 4, we're going to go with An Evening with Last Stand number 2, the most overrated video game of all time video. Plus, their Hot Take Olympics, another video they made. Mm-hmm. Last Stand media is not new to me. I think I started watching their stuff the previous year. Mm-hmm. Although I did pay for their Patreon for a while this year. I like Last Stand a lot. They're really one of the only video game podcasts, well, I know there's more than one podcast, but the video game related podcasts that I watch. And mostly I do like Sacred Symbols, because that's the PlayStation 1, and Constellation, which is more general conversation. They started a new one this year, which I'm going to watch too. Mm-hmm. So, I can't remember if it was episode 200 or something. They did a live show, because they do a live show for that. And as it said, they had to do it. All of them had to do a presentation of the most overrated PlayStation video game of all time.
Okay.
Now here's what, and I just find that really interesting. They all did presentations. It was good. It had like Chris Ray Gun, who I also like. I like those. I like the Last Stand people. But it's funny because Colin Moriarty, and we're going to talk more about him in a bit. He loves The Last of Us Part 2. And just The Last of Us in general. Mm-hmm. And he made a joke that he said something like, if anybody picks The Last of Us, you're going to get fired, right?
Right.
So skip ahead to the end. Chris Ray Gun goes up. chooses The Last of Us. And the crowd goes nuts. Right? And like Cog, another guy who does the Xbox. I'm not really familiar with his work outside of Secret Sums. I don't really watch the Xbox one much, but I like Maddie and Cog. They're cool. But Cog's like, looks at Chris, he goes, think of your future, man! And it was just such a great moment. Like, I just love the show as a whole, just seeing people's picks on like what the most overrated, because I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the hot take Olympics plays into that, because I love me a hot take. I don't even remember any of what they were. I just remember really enjoying the video because you're hearing people give their hot takes about video games and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. Now, Colin Moriarty is one of these people who's sort of like a pariah in the video game industry because he was like really one of the only conservatives. Now I think he's become a little more liberal over time, and I think he's like a reasonable guy. He's not an idiot at all. And even though I disagree with him on some stuff, which obviously disagree with anybody on some stuff, I like Last Day in Media a lot more than basically any other video game company because they're honest. Like, they'll have conversations, like, they'll do Sacred Symbols Plus episodes of, like, interviews with people. Like, the one guy who used to work for IGN who plagiarized the Dead Cells review. I don't know if you knew about that.
Oh, I heard
Like, they actually talked to him at one point. And, like, nobody was talking to him, right? Like, right. And they'll have interviews with these people that nobody's talking to. They managed to bring David Jaffe into the fold a lot. And Gene Park, who's, like, an interesting guy. And, like, they bring in, like, these cool people and they don't need to, like, deal with, like, the PR and deal with, like, all the, like... Now, I think the Xbox one, they kind of do it differently, but, like, Sacred Symbols, they don't get games early and stuff, so it allows them to kind of be free of, like, of that part of the industry. Because I used to write for a website, and while I wasn't big at all, I used to get free stuff, and it was always kind of a little weird. Oh, yeah, send me a review when you're done, and if you hated it, it's like...
Right.
I'm going to get blacklisted, right? And so people, I don't doubt that some people ease up on their opinions a little bit on games. I'm not saying they buy positive review scores or anything, but it's just kind of nice to see a company that does it more honestly.
My number 3 piece of other media in 2023 is the one concession to cheatership that I had in this award. So this was, the reason that this counts is because while it originally released in, like, I want to say, like, 2018, it was only available to buy on DVD in Australia. So, like, you know what? Yeah. But in 2023, it was released for free on YouTube. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to count this because it's so good. And what this is a comedy special by a comedian by the name of Randy Feltface.
Feltface?
Yes. So Randy Feltface, if you've never heard, is an Australian puppet. But it's not like a Jeff Dunham ventriloquist where, like, my problem with Jeff Dunham, we didn't think this is what angle this was going to go on. My problem with Jeff Dunham is Jeff Dunham makes himself at least 50% of his show. So Randy Feltface is just the puppet. And actually, interestingly enough, our buddy Nick is a big Randy Feltface fan and went down to Atlanta to see one of his shows, like a couple months ago.
Nice.
So the Randy Feltface comedy special is called The Book of Randicus. And part of why I like Randy, like, I think Randy Feltface is like the smartest comedy act. And on the level of all of his comedy specials are like high concept. So like his first one was called Randy Writes a Novel. And it's literally, the concept is he's written this book and the concept of the special is like, I don't know whether my book is, I'm too close to my own book, so I don't know this, like, it might be shit, and I'm not going to know if it's shit until I actually put it out into the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read you bits of my book, and based on your reactions, you're going to tell me whether or not I should off myself, basically. That's the way he puts it. But he's too, like, terrified to read his book, so then his comedy bits, like, tail off of that as like, oh, it's an excuse to not read my book. Like, oh, I'm going to do this joke or this long form sort of set or whatever. The Book of Randicus is like based on a religion. Like he's founding his own religion on the idea that there is this like supreme alien being named Beryl who visited Earth 70,000 years ago and just randomly chose Homo sapiens as the species to take that big evolutionary jump to become like the dominant species on the planet, with the idea that Beryl goes from planet to planet, choosing a random species to take the evolutionary jump, and then 70,000 years later returns so that some of those people can then join Beryl in like basically administrating the larger like galactic multiverse and stuff. And it doesn't sound like I'm selling this very well in terms of comedy. Randy Feltface is the funniest comedian that I know today. Hysterical. The jokes are so funny. The longer stories are hilarious, and the Book of Randicus might be overall from top to bottom his best special. So the fact that like it got released for free this year, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of extending the cheater logic in this, but I'm going to use it for this because this is very worthwhile. If you like comedy, you need to check out Randy Feltface, and the Book of Randicus is my number 3.
I've never heard of him. Doesn't seem high concept.
Yeah.
The only comedian, and it's not quite on this level from what you're describing, I guess, but the only comedian I can think of that's like pretty high concept is Bo Burnham.
Yes.
Like, so I probably like Randy Feltface too, because I mean, not that Bo Burnham's anything like him, I guess, but I like comedy. I like them kind of doing something interesting. I mean, like a comedian standing on stage telling jokes is all well and good. And that's usually what I want.
Totally.
But when you can find somebody who's doing something a little different, that's cool for the medium.
Yeah.
My number 3.
Yes.
The date is January 10th, 2024. 2 days before I sit my ass down here.
Okay.
I wake up. I check my phone. And I got 2 fateful messages. The first one is in all caps, and it says, "Yo, red alert." Followed by, "Il Mitch is uploading videos again."
Yes.
So my third pick, I didn't technically see it last year, but my pick is the Home Renovation Show #1, because that did come out last year, even though I didn't see it till this year. Not that I think the Home Renovation Show videos are that funny. I actually like the social credit score and the, I think, depression ones. I actually thought those were really funny. It's Il Mitch, boy! Like, Il Mitch is back, and he's fast and danger.
We are card-carrying members of the Il Mitch street team.
Yeah. Like, I was so happy. I hope he keeps going. I'm so glad that you sent me the messages, because I'm subscribed to him, but it didn't show up.
Yeah.
That he released anything. So, like, I had to go back, and I kicked out my favorite album of the year for this.
Wow. Nice.
Like an album that I listen to a lot when I write, because it's like this straight up like dystopian music, and I think it's like really well done. Actually, there was a few albums I want to talk about. Like there was a John LaJoie album, As Wolfie's Just Fine, that I actually thought was really good. And then like there's some other albums, but I kind of cut out the album for this Il Mitch thing in the final hour because like Il Mitch is my favorite YouTube thing. That and like I'm the Juggernaut and like I don't know what else, but Il Mitch is up there regardless.
Oh yeah.
Like I love Il Mitch. If you don't know, he's a Russian rapper, obviously a character. Although he's done such an exceptional job of not breaking character that you almost start to wonder like maybe he's real. Even though in the videos it's like you can tell he's like trying not to laugh, but then you kind of like, yeah, but maybe he just thinks he's funny. But he's a Russian rapper who likes to punch while rap. And he skateboards, and he hates rollerblades.
Yes,
and there's so much other lore. And he has released a couple albums, which is funny because 2 of them are like rap with like pretty decent beats, obviously crappy delivery, but that's like the joke of it, right? And the lyrics are funny. But then he released this instrumental album. I think it's called K-Blacks or something. And it's really solid instrumental stuff. And I'm like, This isn't supposed to be why I'm listening to Il Mitch. And I think a world where Il Mitch, even though he's pretty obscure, never really reached the levels of, the big internet memes and characters. Any world where he's back making content in a ship or something. It's just vlogs of him, like you said, in a submarine.
Yeah, he's like sitting in front of a control panel that looks like it's in a submarine.
But he was on a boat before, remember? He released a video of him. So that must be his actual job or something.
It must be.
And he just decided to make these videos just talking about stuff. And I don't care if he's making music or giving advice videos or whatever. Anytime Il Mitch is on the scene, I'm happy. Also, quite a while ago, I messaged him on Twitter when I had a website, and I was like, "Can I interview you?" And he said yes, but then he never got back to me. Come on, Il. I'm part of your. He actually calls it spread team.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm part of your spread team.
It was heartwarming to look at these new videos and see everybody in the comments just being like, "Oh my God, you're back!"
Yeah.
Everybody was just so pumped that Il Mitch was back.
It's great.
It is. It's fantastic.
Allow me to unmug you.
My number 2 best piece of other media in 2023 is going to be a very quick one. It is the only video game that's on my list. I played very few video games this year, but I'm going to put it on here just for the sheer volume of time that I can put into a game like this, and it's Madden 24. Because I updated. It's football. What a shock. So I updated Madden I only update Madden every 4 years.
Yeah.
So I hadn't played a Madden game since 20. And so I like doing it that way because that's when you actually see big jumps. Yeah. Because these annual sports games, other than updating the rosters, there's usually very few gameplay changes that happen. There's always some.
Yeah.
New rules and new sort of
or they take out features that they had for some reason.
So there's always something, but when you wait 3 and 4 years in between, those jumps are much larger. So the jump from 20 to 24, I thought that gameplay-wise, I like 24 a lot more. There's a lot more that you can do. Obviously, updated rosters, updated graphics, all the updated good stuff. And so it was a big enough jump. And again, I'm running multiple franchises, be a pro, just the sheer volume of time that I can put into Madden 24 is why it lands number 2 on this list.
Fair enough. I don't play Madden. I almost updated my NHL because I haven't probably in over 10 years at this point. But,
and it's the NHL I update every 2 years.
But the NHL one was getting really bad reviews. Now, I probably would have liked it because, to be honest, I only just play season mode.
Right.
So I just go in there, I make a couple hockey players, my friends, and then I play a season. That's all I do. So the features probably wouldn't matter to me, but I was like, this one's not getting good reviews. I think maybe I'll wait.
Yeah, it got really bad reviews this year.
So I skipped out on that. But so my number 2 is the Muppets Mayhem, the TV show that came out.
Ooh, nice.
At first I wasn't sure how much I was going to like this because it wasn't really a show about all the Muppets. It was just a band. But then I realized wait, that's going to be more animal. Yeah. Hold up. Yeah, that's exactly what I want.
Turning around on this idea.
Right, so I watched it. Just joyful. I was just grinning the entire time, and even some of the things I was scared about, it starred Lily Singh, who I used to like.
Oh yeah.
But she's had her own talk show and stuff, and it's been really bad.
Oh, has it?
What I've seen. So I was like, oh no, is this gonna be some more culture war nonsense? Are you gonna ruin the Muppets? And especially this band, because they're a bunch of stoners and stuff, right? The 70s,
Yeah.
They're already about love everybody. I'm as long as you keep that message for the band, then I'm good. Which they did. It's the people who made this, they actually want to make a universe of this, which I'm actually all for because they nailed this.
The real MCU, the Muppets Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. They understood the Muppets. And honestly, if this was a movie, this would have had a very real chance of being my number 1.
Wow.
Because there just wasn't really much I enjoyed more. This could have even been number 1 in my top 5 media, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's like, it's so upsetting to me that the Muppets isn't like isn't one of the biggest properties on the planet. Like, obviously, there's a legacy, right? But I think they should have like a really good movie every few years, an ongoing show that kind of like passes the torch to like imagine just having like new performers that show up on the Muppets, and that's kind of like their thing of like, yeah, now you're legit. You was on the Muppets. Like, in a perfect world, that's pretty much what it got. And it's got good reviews last time I checked. Like, people liked it, but it also kind of came and went. Like, even I forgot it came out. Like, I was like, oh, they're making one, and then that's cool, and then time went by, and I was just kind of looking for shows, and I just happened to see this. I'm like, wait, is that out? And then I'm like, oh, here we go, and I watched it all in like a day.
Nice.
So here's the thing. I almost considered breaking the Castle Award to give it to this show, because Animal is probably the best representative of bunnies since me. Although technically he was around before me. There was this episode 7. So throughout the whole show, there's this one guy that Animal just doesn't like at all, and he's like trying to basically bang Lily Singh, and the guy goes up to this other guy that also likes Lily Singh's character, but is getting like friend zoned, you know, but loves the Muppets, like loves the band, and like really helps them produce, and I think he was like a roadie and stuff. This guy that Animal hates goes up to him and is like, "How can I make Animal like me?" And he's like, "He really likes bunnies, right?" So then he goes up and he's like talking to Animal, and Animal doesn't like him, and he's like, it's like basically like, "I got you a bunny," and he's like, "Bunny," right? And it's like, I sent you pictures of that episode.
Yes,
that's where I got it from. And then he comes back later with a second bunny. And he's like, bunnies, right? And this is an episode where Kevin Smith is there to direct a documentary about them. So like that was kind of nice too, to see Kevin Smith doing this.
Yeah.
And then there's like a part where the bunnies are like, there's like 1 million bunnies. Not 1 million, there's just a lot of bunnies, and they're like going around and destroying stuff, and they're in like the producing room or whatever, and they're like jumping over everything, and the guy's like, the bunnies are ruining like everything, and then you can see Animal's like, right?
Bunnies, more
and
bunnies.
Even when he sees, like, he has the 2, and he's like hugging them, I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful, and then the third one pops up, and he goes, "Bunny, make more bunny." Right? And I had so much joy watching this episode, because I'm like, that's me. So I almost gave that episode the Castle Award because it was so freaking good. But even without that, oh, by the way, Peter Jackson shows up at the end.
Oh, nice.
So it's like a little bit of something for everyone.
It's true.
But yeah, this show is like a really beautiful representation of the Muppets. And I really do hope that the universe takes off. Oh, and the other thing, so they're going to play, their whole goal of the season is to play, the Hollywood Bowl or whatever it is?
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right? So they get there finally, spoilers. They get there and they're playing. And I'm like, you know what would make this perfect? I go, what if the critics showed up? I always forget their names. Well, I think I had...
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if they showed up? They do!
And then boom.
It's like, they get it. Like, they get it. And then they laughed at the show, and I was like, perfect. Like, this show is perfect. Right? So I'm always happy when, like, the Muppets can succeed. And I'm probably going to talk a little more passionately about this pick than my number 1 because, I don't know, I guess just kind of have more to say about this one. Even though my 1 is really awesome. I thought my 1 was awesome, too. But yeah, Muppets Mayhem is a great show. Everyone should watch it.
My number 1 piece of other media in 2023 is the only musical album to show up on this list. And like, I don't usually indulge in a lot of new music. It's not really like, I'm the kind of person that I'm still listening to the same songs basically that I was listening to like 15 years ago. But it's funny because this album is a bit of a throwback to the music that I've been listening to for some time. It's by an Atlantic-Canadian band called Slowcoaster. And they put out an album called Apples and Oranges. Indie folk band that is, or like a folk rock band basically that's like really heavily influenced by like ska and reggae. And like they're just like a good time band.
Right.
Now this album is like a little more political than some of their stuff has been, but it's not like the whole album is like this big political whatever. It's like there's little bits of it in there, but this is still very much like they're still very much just a good time, put a smile on your face band. And it's like a new album called Apples and Oranges. It's only 10 songs long, so it's not an overly long album, but it's almost like the Green Day halftime show. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and by the end of the album, you're like, I want to listen to that again. Like, I want that again, I want that more. And I've been listening to Slowcoaster since, like, 2006. I think. They played Frosh Week one of the years that I was at university. One of the Frosh Week events Slowcoaster played at, and I fell in love with them because live they're incredible. And so like I've been listening to stuff on their older albums from back then for like 15 years, more than 15 years, and now to hear from a contact at work who I didn't even know liked Slowcoaster, like, oh hey, there's this new Slowcoaster album. I'm like, I didn't know you liked Slowcoaster. So we got to bond over Slowcoaster, which was really cool. And this album's just fantastic. It's one of the best new albums that I've heard in a long time. I shared it with our friend Zach. I don't know that he's gotten a chance to listen to it yet and give me his feedback, but I shared it with Zach. I want to share it with you as well. Slowcoaster's just, a band that puts a smile on my face, and their album, Apples and Oranges, is my #1 other media of 2023.
Zach listens to a massive amount of new music.
He does.
I don't know who they are. I had a similar experience, although not with a new album per se, of a band that I also got into many, many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're called Air Traffic Control now.
Yeah.
But they used to be called Mad Hat, and I actually have one of their albums, and I have it on my computer still, because I don't know where my CD is, To the World. And I like that album, and I was like, oh, they're still around, because I saw them pop up somewhere. I'm like, I didn't even realize that. Mm-hmm. So I messaged my friend who I got into them because of her, and like, do you know they were still around? She's like, yeah, like, I know somebody who's like taking drum lessons from the drummer or something. Oh yeah, that's cool. I'm like, I didn't even know that they were still a band, so that's cool. Yeah, I try to listen to. I've gotten back into listening to new albums because like I also have a playlist of just songs I like. Some of them really old. You know, when I think of them, I'll add them in. But I try to listen to between like, I don't know, 50 to 80 albums and kind of pick out the individual songs from the albums to add to my list because it gets kind of tiring listening to the same music all the time.
Right.
I did go a little while without listening to much new music, but I do try now.
I will share that album with you because it's definitely worth taking the time to listen to. It leads off with probably my favorite song on the album. It's literally just called Song That We Need Right Now. And it's probably my favorite song on the whole album. So they put their strongest foot forward, which I got to appreciate. But Slowcoaster, Apples and Oranges, my #1.
So my #1, we're also going with a slightly obscure pick. We're going with Super Mario Wonder, the new Mario game.
Definitely.
No one knows it.
Has ever heard of that.
There were some other potential options. Like I knew I wanted to represent video games like my favorite game because I talked about video games, but I mean RE4 remake was amongst my favorites. But I wanted to represent video games, so I had to pick one. But there were other options. The Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty DLC was fantastic. The Metroid Prime Remastered was great. Gunbrella I really liked. RE4 remake, Dead Island 2 for some reason like really got me. FF16 was wonderful. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but to be honest, I didn't feel right with that because I know that game's a 10 out of 10, just like Breath of the Wild was, but I also abandoned it to play FF16 because I'm always going to be more of like a Final Fantasy.
Right.
Like, I was excited, right? I thought I would play Zelda for like a month straight and get my fill of it and then move on to Final Fantasy, but then I wasn't really feeling like playing games, so I couldn't put Zelda on there. But so I went with Mario Wonder. Oh, there's also a game called Le Pen, which is like a rabbit thing, but it's like it's like Celeste, but with rabbits. I really like that game too, but I understand there's some rabbit bias here. But yeah, like I know this isn't as beloved as like some of the other Marios, specifically the 3D ones, like Odyssey. Right. Obviously is the nearest one because that was actually a Switch game, and I understand that. But I'm a 2D Mario guy in my heart, more so, right? Because I grew up with 2D Mario. So you asked me my favorite Marios, it's Mario 3, and Super Mario World. And Mario Wonder. Because it might be my favorite Mario of all time.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, like, when I saw the trailer, I thought, well, obviously this is going to be fun, but it wasn't super, like, I was like, I don't know. Like, the Wonder Seed stuff, and for those who don't know, you get a Wonder Seed, and it's basically on you're basically on drugs, and weird stuff starts happening with the level.
Yeah.
And I thought that looked cool, but, like, I wasn't as excited as I could be, because, I don't know. then I played it, and man, like, this shows why Nintendo is the greatest developer on the planet still. When they bring their A-team in, they do it. Like, there's so many creative ideas, and even though they reuse a few, it's like, whatever. So many creative ideas within the Wonder Seed part. And some awesome music, and just great Mario, you know? I know that it's not there for... Like, as I've gotten older, I don't play Nintendo games as long as I used to, because I do sort of need a story more than I realize.
Right.
But this was one that I was like, no, this game is really great. Yeah, 2D Mario is still king of the platformers. Super Mario Wonder is number one. FF16 was a serious consideration, and Le Pen was a serious consideration too.
Well, look at that. 2 deep-cut indie pieces of art. I just hope that they make their money back, because...
yeah, I'm really scared for Nintendo.
Yeah, you know, this
They didn't have a good year with the movie and the game and just
this might be the end
Nintendo
for
in general. Like Pikmin 3 or Zelda. Or 4, I should say, and Zelda.
GoFundMe.com/Nintendo.
Yeah.
So, Super Mario Wonder and the Slowcoaster album Apples and Oranges, our number one pieces of other media in 2023. As you can see, the God Rays are taking over the corner of our table, so we are going to go and fix that, and when we come back, it's time for our top 5 worst movies of 2023, the real pieces of garbage, and we can't wait to bring them right to your doorstep. See you next time.